Welcome, Queen. Are you finding it hard to prioritize what's important? Listen, I know I have been there, saying that I need to get something done and I wanted to get it done, and then at the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month, it still wasn't done. And sometimes we can have the best and greatest intentions and know that we need to get something done, and subconsciously, although we know we needed to get done, we do not actually take the time to get it done. Have you been there? Can you relate to having a goal, having something that was important, and saying you were going to do it, and then you never set aside the time to get it done? If so, here's what you should know. Prioritizing isn't the plan, isn't the issue. Planning is. You see, when we prioritize, that means we group things that we value into groups such as urgent, critical, important, negotiable, or expendable. Now, you may swap those words out with other words, but those are the words that I use to help me group things. So I want you to think about this. Do you actually group what you need to where it needs to go? If you do, I want you to consider what type of game plan do you put in place to get it done. Because most likely this is your trouble spot. Because you're telling yourself, I know I need to do this and I will when I get time. After my shift is over, meaning once I leave work, or during my break, maybe when you take your lunch break. And the list goes on. But then life starts lifing. And so I want you to consider this. Looking at your day before the day comes. So in other words, taking the time to think about tomorrow, today. Is your schedule the same? If so, this is great because this will allow you to set up what I call a typical week. So with a typical week, you can put high priority tasks in a consistent time block. So you will have an open space consistently, regularly, every day to accomplish getting the most critical tasks that you need to done. Now, if not, that's fine. But that means that you have to be extra intentional about looking at tomorrow before each day. So you can't sit down one day at a time per week and say, I'm going to map out my whole week, because each day, your day is different that week. And that's key and critical, because when you don't have a set schedule, it can easily create stress and overwhelm, because you will intend, you really will intend and mean to get what's important done, but intentions aren't actions. And that's why I've shown you two examples. So what you see here is a typical week for someone who has a regular week, meaning their week is pretty much consistent. And again, like I said, when your week is pretty much consistent, you can look at the time frame where you have a consistent gap and you can put it there, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, be it personal or professional. Now, on the other hand, if your week, it varies. You have what I call a flexible week, meaning it varies, it changes. You can still focus on prioritizing getting what's important done. You'll just have to do it at different times throughout your week. And as you look at both of these, you can see that that I left Saturday open, because I know typically people who do work on Saturdays, their work hours may vary and they may be different. But again, you can still put time in your week on Saturdays to focus on doing whatever it is that's key and critical to you. Now, the gap. You got to take care of the most important things in your gap time. And as you see from the schedules, I put a 2-hour block there, because gaps are times in your schedule where you have at least 30 minutes, preferably an hour or more, to just focus. And this is a process that I use, and it's called time blocking. And so time blocking helps you create that space. The same for me. It helps me create that space to complete one, emphasis on one, high priority task. That's HPT, high priority task. And the reason I put an emphasis on one is because if you time block, but then you're trying to get 4, 5, 6 things done, your focus is divided. And so that defeats the purpose of time blocking in the first place. So if you're time blocking, you need to focus on completing one thing, because what you don't want to do is time block and then you're trying to focus on all of these different things. And then at the end of that time blocking period, still nothing is completed. That's not the goal. Because with a high priority task, it yields you great results to accomplish your goal. Means you're moving the needle forward. You're having micro wins as it relates to you achieving your big macro goal. It's not something that you can easily delegate or do when you're up against a deadline. For example, checking emails or responding to text messages. Those two things, that's not high priority tasks. Okay. I know the cell phone can be a big distraction. So if you are focusing on a high priority task, I highly recommend that you silence it. Silence it. Silence it. So it's not a distraction to you. And queens, I want you to also understand and remember this. When it matters, you create the space to get it done. I know sometimes you may need help or you may need an accountability partner. And if you do need an accountability partner and you're ready to work with someone one-on-one, you can look in the description and the link to contact me directly so you can have direct contact to work with me specifically on your issue and get a tailored plan is in that description box. But I want you to remember the scene on Monsters Ball. If you watch that movie, you know that that movie is the one that Halle Berry is in. And one of the jokes she made was about this dog. And this dog was in pain. And the joke at the end said that I guess he ain't moving bad enough. He's not hurting bad enough. And so I say that to say sometimes we can say something is a priority, but if we're not really intentional about focusing on it, then we have to consider whether or not it's important enough. Because if it is, then we'll reassess what we're doing and why we're not taking the necessary steps to get it done. Because here's the thing. If you don't take the time to invest in prioritizing the things and or people you say are important, you'll end your days and eventually your life never having put yourself first. As always, I'm Coach Sam telling you 24 hours doesn't seem long, but in 24 hours you could change your life. So go ahead and do something life-changing now.